Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video, another group contemplation. That's a good word for it. Welcome to Owning Authenticity, where I am somewhat on a mission, leisurely, a leisurely mission of owning my authenticity. I want to be as real and transparent and honest, essentially, as I can possibly tolerate being. And then, maybe just like a smidgen more here and there. Vulnerability hangovers are my normal, basically. I'm very well versed in a nice solid scoop of vulnerability hangover where you overshared or whatever, you're worried if you reveal too much, that's when you've gone just far enough, just as soon as you're okay, this is uncomfortable, you're okay, that's enough, and you would be amazed at the reactions that people will give you when you're just honest and real, where I feel like this is kind of an overarching theme that I hope a lot of people get to see play out with the Aries North Node in general, is that, and I'm so excited for the Aries North Node chapter of this owning authenticity journey of me owning my authenticity personally, but just the concept of the channel in general. I'm excited to see how a 18-month period like the Aries North Node, I can envision just droves of people who are really resonating with wanting to do that. So yeah, just in general, it seems like a perfect time to practice owning our authenticity. And I think we'll be surprised, Libra South Node, at how little pushback we really get. I think that's one of the best, highest frequency options that I think all of us will kind of pop in and out of as we go, is you do take a risk, you do employ your courage, you dig deep into your heart, and you share what's real for you, because that's just what comes out, right? Fire energy, you just do it. And I think we're gonna get to be really pleasantly surprised with positive social reactions for doing that. I think there's, the Aries South Node, that opposite chapter, the Aries South Node, that is when we really get a lot of social pushback when we lean into our base level impulses and instincts. Yeah. On this end, though, for this chapter from 2023 to very beginning of 2025, we're on an Aries North Node and a Libra South Node. So the wind is pushing in that general direction of getting to embody whatever your fire energy wants. And I think, timing is everything, really. And by the time you feel ready and resourced and capable of being who you are, just being comfortable in your skin, so to speak, I think there's, especially during this chapter, because of the Libra South Node, I think there's going to be an element of the only people who really have access to you are those who can be supportive and cheer you on in your Aries North Node journey. And dude, the ones who can't muster that kind of energy, I see them just kind of naturally falling away, because we are truly meant to lean into who we came here to be. Aries, that spark of our life force energy, had a sacred mission that was anything but leisurely. Don't let me fool you. My leisure is a huge part of my personal life mission, but that soul level fire burning desire, passionate desire, I mean, because it's so sacred to me, is why I'm even able to rest, because it's so important to me that I be able to show up when I truly know that it's time. Sitting here making this video, where I have been contemplating ever since I wrapped the last one, where I talked to Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. I very intentionally went kind of clockwise, right? But kind of counter counter to what you would normally expect, as far as first I covered like 1, 2, and 3, and then I jumped back and did 10, 11, and 12. Because honestly, that half of the zodiac is where I feel like I had a lot more connection already. Like I already had a good level of understanding of those 6, or at least like way more, we'll say, than the other 6, right? Like it's all relative. And these other 6, starting with this one, where I'm going to talk to Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius North Nodes, I am way less consciously able to find like these axes, these like combinations of energy where we're trying to build Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and we're trying to heal shadows in Gemini, Aries, and Taurus. Like it's just harder for me to find that within myself. And so that to say, number 1, my Virgo South Node got a healthy dose of anxiety because, oh my God, it's not going to be perfect enough. So I got to work through that. So that was really cool, where I was like, you know what? It's going to be whatever it bees, and they're going to take it or leave it like they always do and always have the right to. And it will be for some, it will not be for all. And maybe you're like owning authenticity, like maybe your realness around like, this is my unconscious, and so let me just own that first and foremost as a disclaimer for anybody who feels like these are the energies that they're super well versed in, and my intuition may guide us into random offshoots simply because like I am very much like trying to find this inside of myself still. And I feel like this morning I did have a bit of a connection and like an opening where I do now have at least something of a handle on these axes, that I do feel ready enough to talk about it. And I am so grateful for this kind of series that's organically birthing itself at this point, where my channel is slowly specializing into North Node content. And I'm super grateful because what I have here prepared for today, I feel like may land as like fairly basic, although I think it's going to be a really interesting presentation. But it's definitely the presentation of a beginner who is somewhat grasping at straws to like come to this energy herself. So let me just own all of that. And with that, welcome to these conversations. We are going to get into a specific chapter. Check the timestamps down below for Libra North Node, Scorpio North Node, and Sagittarius North Node. In each chapter, I do have planned to, as always, share where this energy is within me. Like, how is it laid out in my chart? How is my being using this energy? And that also, I feel like, gives some context as far as where my perspective might be coming from, if it lands differently or if it really resonates like with yours. Either way, I think that could help you understand your unique part in all of this. But then also, because again, I'm reaching and I'm trying to divine what all of this means. The answer will not be found in my mind. It's an intuitive process that I've allowed to come through, where I pulled cards. I pulled archetype cards and a little bit of tarot for each of these 3 nodal groups. So I have some cards to share at the end of each message. And I also like really boiled down just the elemental astrology of what we're going to be talking about. So like, you know, what is a fire south node? What is an air north node? So in that way, I think these chapters may also be some of the most helpful as far as like how to understand any of the air north nodes or how to understand any of the earth south nodes. I had to like dig back into the basics basically. So I think, honestly, I think it's going to create something really cool. So as always, feel free to check out any of the chapters that you're drawn to. I was just thanking my spiritual support this morning in my journal about this series in general and how working with all 12 of the nodal groups has been like, it's almost like I can feel all of these different pieces of my energy like clicking into place inside of me. And, you know, astrology and the planets and the complex natal chart, it's like all just different areas of your house. If your being was a house, and it's like there's the front room and there's the basement and there's the attic and there's the, you know, the bathroom that you have to like go in through the bedroom and then in through the closet, and then in there is a bathroom. Like we have such hidden little pockets of energy, and we have other energy that's like right on our face. And so as I get to know all 12 of the nodal groups, I feel like I'm like exploring my property, like my literal 12 faceted being, like infinitely faceted being that, you know, this series is really helping me to discover myself and discover my own wholeness. So it truly is my joy and my pleasure to be doing it and to be here with you spending this time. It's also so cool that you're here spending this time. I'm super excited for you on your journey of putting your property together and understanding your unique energy, and by doing that, be able to live the most you life that you can possibly bring yourself to live. You know, find that place inside of you, that Aries North Node, that literal spark of your life force energy that had a reason and worked so hard / like, you know, won the race to impregnate the egg to be able to exist. Like you won the contest for a body, and you got in that body on purpose for a reason. And it was that body you wanted, it was that life you wanted, because that body and that life had all the tools in the toolbox that you needed for your unique mission. And this Aries North Node, the archetype of the warrior, like I see all of us being that much more acquainted with our property, with our being, our full being, the power of our full being. Like no victims, all warriors. We are here, spiritual warriors, bringing light onto this planet. I have no doubt if you're watching this, you're one of these people. You must be. Yeah, like ferociously dedicated to spreading light and love. And this Aries North Node is a time about finding a cause that you would live and die for, right? And like, what a concept, what a heavy concept. But at the same time, like, you know, I heard a quote, and I'm not going to remember the author, but I'm sure you could Google it. It was, if someone has nothing worth dying for, they also have nothing really worth living for. Like life and death are so much two sides of the same coin. And if you're avoiding one, you're kind of avoiding the other. So like this thought about, yeah, what is it that like I'm willing to trade my life for? My time is incredibly important to me. I take it very seriously because time only goes forward in this realm. It's linear, unfortunately, not in the bigger picture, in the grander scheme of things, but in this particular realm, very practically speaking, we are dealing with a linear timeline, and it does speed up and slow down, but it only goes forward. So you don't get it back. Like this moment that I'm in right here, I am trading my life to be able to make this video. I know that, and I'm doing it on purpose. So do it on purpose, you know, like nobody gives a fuck. I think at this point, especially, again, those generous social reactions, nobody gives a fuck what you do. Just do it. Like the Fire North Node is all about finding that impulse, finding that flow coming off the spark of your life force energy, and do it. Be it. It's perfect the way that it is because it is. You are. And oh gosh, like I am so excited for anybody taking this journey with me. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Without further ado though, let's get into the individual chapters for each nodal group. Hello, Libra North Node. Do. I had to. I had to. It was non-negotiable. This was what I understand anyway. And now maybe you won't be able to get that out of your head, same as I can't get it out of my head, because this morning as I was journaling to my spiritual support, I basically like asked them to open me up to the fun of this process, because as you heard in the intro, or maybe you skipped right here, I have a harder time with these particular nodal groups, the 3 that are on this video and the 3 that'll be on the next video, the Leo, Virgo, and Cancer North nodes. I have a harder time connecting in with these 6 groups. And it's nothing personal. I just can't find it inside myself. So this is such a journey of having to like excavate within my being to be able to find these things. And so anyways, I finally was like, you know what, just divine support, like help me find this within myself. And it was like, just like a lightning bolt, like, hello, Libra North Node, do. And oh my God, like I bust up laughing, and over and over and over, it just keeps coming, and it's funny still. So I give it to you because, oh my God, like, I don't know why, but something about being willing to lean into your instincts feels like a really important message that you guys need to hear, that your instincts are literally fire. You have a fire south node, like you are instinct, like you know what's right. You know what's right for you in every single moment. And that is something that fire south nodes, I would say, have in common as a, you know, much more dominantly being able to do that than any of the other, you know, groups like the water south nodes. Oh my God. Like, no, they know maybe what they feel. They also know the feelings of the environment, you know, etc., air and earth. Like they know stuff, but it's not what's right for them in every single moment like it is for fire south nodes. And so, yeah, like your instincts are some of your greatest assets that you possess. And as a Libra North Node, you are also having your cross nodal return. And so that means that at some point during this 18-month period, you will have the Aries North Node passing over, like where it really is in the sky as it moves, it'll pass over your natal south node in your natal chart, where it always is for you personally. Those 2 points are going to meet. And so Aries North Node transiting your Aries South Node. And on the other end, you'll have the Libra South Node transiting your Libra North Node. And so this is called the cross nodal return, where they're at opposite ends exactly. This is a massive turning point as far as that cross nodal return process in general is, I would say, kind of like a reality check. And that's a term I don't use lightly, because the term reality is like a quantum rabbit hole of epic proportions. So like, what even is reality? But I am still going to use it because it's the closest thing I can think of to, like, it's a mirror for who you are and who you've become since your last nodal return, when you had the full force of the universe at your back the last time the North Node was in Libra 9 years ago. The universe is pushing wind in your sails, and no doubt something broke loose, and something like was like, oh my God, like this is life, and this is what I'm here for, like whatever, some kind of something happened at your nodal return 9 years ago. And this halfway check-in point of the cross nodal return, right? 9 years ago was your last nodal return, and 9 years from now is the next one. So, you know, this point in the process is like a progress check, a reality check, where for better or for worse, you're going to have mirrored to you who you have become since the last nodal return. And all of it's information. None of it's a judgment. None of it's like, oh, it's a test and I'm going to pass or fail. No, it's all just information for you to get to have and to add into your contemplation to go along with what was going on 9 years ago. You know, what was playing out at that time. So I had to go get the dates of when your last nodal return was. So that's February 2014 through November of 2015. So where were you at that time? So that would have been that 9 years ago, February 2014 through November of 2015. I can tell you, for me, I got engaged, which is very interesting as far as like the Libra North Node, like going into partnership, like wanting to couple up, wanting to like co-create. Like you need another, like that's the whole point of the Libra part, is that you're wanting another. And so yeah, that was during the time that I got engaged, and I was engaged for about 8 months, like December to August of 2015. And it was in August that I canceled that wedding, and so I didn't get married, because deep down, this is not what I want. Like Aries South Node doesn't just go away just because you're gonna get into a relationship with another person. Like, if anything, that's one of the deepest gifts of that Aries South Node, is being able to know what is right for you. And you are not expected to let go of that just because you're getting into a relationship. Like, there's a darker expression of a Libra North Node that, one, is resistant to relationship at all cost, and so they just never partner at all. That's one option. Two, that you get into a relationship but you turn total people pleaser, where you totally let go of yourself and you're just all about the other, and that doesn't work. It just fundamentally doesn't work in the world. As far as like creating balance, if the other person is completely missing, then the balance is weighted on the other side, and you have no true equilibrium between partners that's truly possible when you both hang on to yourself, but also move into partnership with another whole being and negotiate and cooperate and co-create a life together that is big enough for all of you and all of them. Like, that is one of the most beautiful scenarios possible, I believe, for that Libra North Node position playing out. Is like, you know, your instincts are fire. The Aries South Node is a fire South Node. So the greatest gift that you have is to give that fire to others, to give that as like a service almost. And when you have an Air North Node, that means opening up to paying attention to what is going on around you. And that's no shade, but like fire South Nodes are typically gonna tend more towards like a narcissistic, self-centered kind of point of view. And I use those words in full love with zero negative connotation as far as I'm concerned. They're simply describing the way energy is wired. And what it means is that the first and biggest and primary focus when you got here in this lifetime as an Aries South Node was me. And it just was like almost innocent of like, it's me. I am the center of the universe. Like, there's only my action. Like, it's a very doing kind of position as far as like not really asking for permission, not really paying attention to what anybody else is doing. There's just what you want, and so you just do it. You don't even think about it. It just is an extension of your desire, puts your body into motion, and it happens. So that level of empowerment and liberation, it is something that you are absolutely supposed to hang on to and give it away. Give it away to everybody. Give it away to your partner. Give it away to the people that you meet in life. Give it away on purpose as a business, as a coach or a counselor or something like that. You have a talent for empowering other people. And again, I'll go back to, this is one of the hardest ones for me to find within myself. And also shockingly easy once I found it. And I think that's probably what's going on with most of them, is that these ones that are harder for me to connect with are down in my body. They're just naturally part of how I am, so I don't even think about it. And that is where Aries and Libra fall in my chart personally, is that my vertex is in Libra. And my anti-vertex then, or the opposite point on that axis, is in Aries. And my current life coach and I were exploring this in my last session, the vertex, anti-vertex, and she explained it to me. And so I'm going to give you what I can remember. Apologies in advance. It's not going to be much because I know almost nothing, but the way she explained it really made sense. And so the vertex is the position that you would go to like step away from yourself and be able to then see yourself. Like basically while you're in your anti-vertex, it's just completely unconscious. You just are like a fish in water. Like you don't even understand that there is water. It just is part of who you are. You swim in water. It's like tied to your identity. The anti-vertex space is like a total just inhabitant place of who you are. And we step away from who we are over to the opposite point, and then we can see really clearly. And she described it as like, it had to do with the actual astronomy of like what the vertex and anti-vertex actually represents. And I have absolutely no clue how to tell you about that. But the way she described it was like the anti-vertex, that part of like just naturally who you are, so much so that you can't even see it. That is like the doorway your soul walked through, and the imprint of energy, like the shape you took as you walked onto the physical plane. Like when you went from non-physical to physical, you walked through the doorway of your anti-vertex. And then once you're here, there's an energy represented by your vertex on the opposite side where you can go over to this energy and you'll have a view of who you really are. And so that's what I got going on, is I have Aries as my anti-vertex and Aries as the natural shape and posture of who I really am. And when I really got honest with myself, the whole not asking for permission, the whole like violating others without even really meaning to, just because I'm not even thinking about them, like just total self-centeredness. Like I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's not just like familiar energy, like it's me. Like that's me in a nutshell. And some of the things that they recommend for Libra North Node are things that I really struggled with, as far as like when you have an air North Node, you're wanting to like open your eyes and like look at the world around you, like look at the people around you, open your ears and listen to what's going on, pay attention to that. So social cues falls into that category. And Libra, if you're really strong in Libra energy, you are like a master, like a ninja with the social cues. And quick story, when I was a kid, I remember, I'm pretty sure it was in first grade, like when I was going to all-day school for the first time. I remember feeling like, was I sick the day that they taught us how to make friends? Like when they taught us how to talk to other people, was I gone that day? Did nobody tell me that I missed a homework assignment? Like I was so confused, because when I looked around, it was like everybody else was like laughing with each other and like playing together. They had these groups of people that were all playing together. And I'm over here by myself, like on the swings, like, how do they do that? Did I miss that day? Like, was this a special school that I didn't get invited to? Like, what the fuck is going on? And so learning to pay attention well enough to pick up on social cues, meaning like the tone in somebody's voice when they're not actually interested in the conversation and they want to go away from you. I didn't know how to hear that. I was just excited and expressing and whatever. Like I just generally didn't have like a lot of friends and like a big group of social acquaintances. Like I haven't, like that's just not ever been my reality. And that, I think social cues had a lot to do with it. And because of that, and because of so much like failure / opportunity to learn from what's not working, I feel like I did get really good at social cues, to the point where then in my late teens and 20s, I swung on into that darker expression of the Libra North Node where like I was so good at social cues that I will completely take myself apart and just, yeah, like just people please, like crazy. And I feel like at this point, I'm kind of like coming back to this middle place where really me in my full power, in my full flow, is the best thing that I can give to others. And especially during the Aries North Node chapter, I think for you guys, it's an opportunity to, you know, still lean into your Libra North Node. Like you'll always be doing that. The Aries North Node, this chapter that we're currently on, is liberating us to be our full self, and who your full self is a Libra North Node, you know? So it's still pushing you in that direction, but if anything, like I said, like the most high frequency of Libra North Node that's possible is that like you're really talented at creating a space where not only your full, empowered, embodied life force energy, like your full self will fit in this space, but also so will their full self, and so will their full self, and so will their full self. Like you are an engine for empowering other people to unleash their full selves. And I will share this, and then we'll jump into the cards that I drew for you guys. And the last thing I want to share before the cards is this book that I recently manifested, that as soon as I started listening to it, I was like, oh my God, I have to tell everyone about this book, as far as like, this is such a perfect guide as far as how to live the Aries North Node. And I digested it like immediately. I took it in. I started listening to it again as soon as I finished it. I'm on like my third listen through when it occurs to me, like, who is this author? Like, how does this person just know all of this? The author's name is Terry, so I didn't know if it was a woman or a man. And so I go and I look, and it's a woman, doesn't matter. But I look up their natal chart and Aries South Node. And I'm like, of course. And what the book is called is What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. And it is like such the perfect guide to how to fully embody Aries energy. And she is actually a really interesting case where, and it wants to come through, so maybe this applies to some of you as well, where the general mindset in the culture that I've sensed is we're leaning out of the South Node and we're leaning into the North Node. And that, it doesn't exactly feel like that to me so much as like harnessing the South Node, like taking a net and like panning for the diamonds that are in there with a screen that will let the trauma and the wounding and the past karma, let that be released from your being, while you then are able to fill that space with high frequencies of whatever the North Node is. So you'd want both. You're not trying to like let one go so you can have the other one. So the author of that book is a really good example where she has her South Node and her Saturn like almost exactly conjunct in Aries. And Saturn is the daily work, the brick by brick building of who we came to be in this lifetime. Like what is not so much who we came to be, as that's a huge part of it, because you can't build your actual thing if you're not the person you're supposed to be. So you're kind of building yourself, but you're also, Saturn wants you to leave something behind. Like yesterday I was talking to somebody about John Lennon, and it was so weird because I couldn't put him past tense. Like I was saying, like, he was such a gift to the world? No, is. He is such a gift to the world. He's been dead for 40 some years. Like, he is a gift to the world. He's still gifting to the world. Like, new people discover his music probably every single day. He plays on this planet, all over the planet, all day, every day. Been gone for over 40 years. Like, that's Saturn. That's like you, your personal life. It has no ego in it whatsoever, no trace of ego. You, your life force, energy, and all of that, like, it is important and it matters a lot. But at the end of the day, at the end of all the days where your life is no longer. You know, like your ember burned for a while and now it's over. Death, it's the natural end of all of us. And at that point, Saturn is, okay, so what still remains of this soul's presence on this earth? And so she has like her Saturn on her South Node. So like that in my mind is a perfect example. She wrote a book called What You Think of Me Is None of My Business, and a bunch of other books. And she had a TV program where she empowered all of these people because she empowered herself to be her natural self and spent time teaching other people how to do that. And so kind of the air north nodes, all of them want to take what you naturally get to have, that fire down in your belly that tells you, it's a compass that guides you. Like, you just know, like you're so powerful, so decisive. You just know. And that is such a gift for you that, again, like it can be so unconscious that you don't even necessarily realize that you possess it. But the more this Aries North Node, the more your cross nodal return can help you to really sink into just how powerful you are. Like really understand that 75% of the population does not have access to what you have access to, right? So this is, and I mean that because I'm grouping like all the fire south nodes together. And so that's like 3 out of the 12 and they're all equally spaced. So you can assume about 25% of the population has a fire south node. So you fire south nodes, Aries south node included, you're here then to like air, like when you blow a dandelion and it like carries off into the wind, where you're never going to see those again. Like you're not responsible for like all of the different like little seedlings that get planted and they grow, and you don't have to water any of that. Like you don't have to do anything. You just have to like spread what you have and the rest will take care of itself. So the last thing that we're going to do before I sign off for this first time, before, you know, I plan to just loop through this series, and this is very much an opening of this conversation that we can continue then as we go through the Libra South Node, Aries North Node chapter. And so these cards, I have 2 different decks that I'm using. I linked them I listed them in the description box. Take them with a grain of salt. I mean, this is divination. Like you're going to get a message and it will resonate somewhat. And so yeah, take from it what you want. Anything that doesn't land, just leave it here for somebody else. So the first cards that I'm going to talk about are the Archetype cards by Carolyn, Myss. And I drew 1 card to represent your Aries South Node, and I drew 2 cards to represent your Libra North Node. That was what I asked for, and that's what I was inspired to ask for. That was my impulse. And so that's what we got. And so I have first your Aries South Node energy is the Fool. And I cannot read it like that, so I am going to take it. And the light attributes, so like the highest frequency of this energy is fearlessly revealing emotion, helping people laugh at absurdity and hypocrisy. And the shadow attributes are using humor to wound rather than liberate, and denial of your emotional truth. And I thought that was like really interesting with Aries being the warrior and like using humor to wound rather than liberate, and liberate being a very Libra connotation. So yeah, I thought that was like really interesting, but you'll take from it whatever you need to take from it. And then on the Libra North Node side, we have 2 cards that I just like, this is why I personally believe in divination, because it does match in my opinion. The first one is Advocate. And it says the light attribute inspires you to put compassion into action. You guys are like some of the fiercest warriors on the planet. And that is a big power. And with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, I'm quoting Spider-Man to you right now because it's real. And so this advocate energy is all about using that power for the good of the all, using that power on behalf of groups who need a little extra power in the moment for whatever reason. The shadow attribute is embracing negative causes or committing to causes for personal gain. And I thought, again, very, very interesting with this particular nodal group. And the second card for the Libra North Node is Alchemist. And the light attribute is transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. Transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. The shadow attribute, misuse of the power and knowledge that come through spiritual practice. So again, like, you guys are so powerful, and fire as an element is a catalyst. It takes something from one form and moves it to a different form. Like, you think about taking a piece of paper and light it on fire, it's going to turn it into ash. So fire is going to turn it into something else. And so this Libra North Node reference to the alchemist, it's like, what are you burning? Because you could burn something. You know, you could point that fire at whatever injustice you want. And you could advocate and you could alchemize on behalf of whatever injustice you feel needs to come off the planet. Well, point your fire at it, turn it to ash. The last two cards that I have are a couple of tarot cards, and I took this as like guidance for the Aries North Node chapter, like what would really support you and help you. And the first card is the Nine of Cups, which is, I think, a really interesting connotation as far as the North Node transiting over your South Node, because it can be a time of radical blessings, right? Like, it's a check-in, it's a reality check. It's going to be a mirror showing you who you are, for better or for worse. And I don't need to pump your ego. It's totally fine all by itself. But I will say that the fact that you're watching this right now tells me that you have built up a lot of self-awareness, a lot of compassion for yourself, for others. You are already well along your way on your mission. And so this Nine of Cups card is kind of like a count your blessings kind of time. Like, take stock of what already exists in your world, like what has already manifested out of who you are, and all the blessings and turning points along the way that have brought you to this beautiful place that you now are. As much as you can just watch the blessings like falling all over your past self, and like they're just keeping falling on your current self, and they'll keep falling on your future self. We also have the Four of Swords. And so it's a weird card presented in a lot of different ways throughout the tarot. And I personally have like a really beautiful relationship with this card. I take it as a permission slip to like try less, right? Like, try less to figure it out. Trust your instincts. Even when the instincts are like, I want a nap, you know, okay, then take a nap, you know, trust your instincts, even when they're saying be still. And as a Libra North Node, you know, think about, I guess this will be the last point, possibly, who knows. Think about that Aries South Node is ruled by Mars ruling Aries, action, lots of action. And the North Node is ruled by Venus. Venus rules Libra. And Venus is about finding your equilibrium and finding your inner balance and harmonizing with your five senses, as far as just submerging yourself in beauty. And which is to say, when we behold beauty, chemicals get released in our bodies that are very calming and very peace inducing, like even euphoria, as far as like something that is just so breathtakingly beautiful. That's like the highest frequency of Libra, is using your eyes to just zen out your entire body. And so I like the Four of Cups, like the Four of Swords, like this time of just be in your skin and behold the beauty of your life and the world around you, and use your instincts to empower others, to, you know, advocate for others, alchemize the injustice that others are experiencing because they don't know yet how to stand up for themselves. Teach people how to stand up for themselves like you know how to, and trust that the way that you are and the way that you've always been is good, and that there is a beautiful way to channel it into the world for the collective, for the good of the all. And this cross-nodal return period, I would not be surprised if you have a major breakthrough in how to do that. Libra North Node, it has been my sincere pleasure to spend this time with you. I would love to hear your comments about how this landed, how it resonates, what questions do you have. I'll be back soon to talk to Libra North Nodes again as I cycle through all 12 of the nodal groups. Take a second to like the video and comment, subscribe to the channel. All of those things are you telling the algorithm that other people might really enjoy this. And so use your fire, point it at whatever you want to push out into the world, whatever you want to change. There is literally no stopping you, Libra North Node. Until next time, take such good care of yourselves, and so will I. Hello, Scorpio North Nodes, and welcome to our conversation together. This is just the first installment, and I will be back hopefully many times to continue this conversation with you. Scorpio and Taurus North Nodes both are one of the most interesting axes to me personally, and that is because no matter how hard I try, I can't figure out which one I resonate with more. I'm like, I resonate with the Taurus North Node stuff and the Scorpio North Node stuff. And so, yeah, I do have a decent chunk of Taurus and Scorpio energy in my own chart, just so you can see where I'm coming from. I'm a 0 degrees Taurus rising, and then I also have Jupiter in Taurus, and then so that also makes me 0 degrees Scorpio descendant, and I have Pluto in Scorpio. And I think how I understand it, at least, you know, take that for what you will, is that it's the Taurus rising that is resonating with the Taurus North Node chapter, and it's that Pluto, I was going to say Pluto and Jupiter. I can give that one some space to breathe. I have Pluto in Scorpio and Jupiter in Taurus, and I think that is what is resonating as like the Jupiter and the Taurus South Node I could see being similar, and the Pluto and the Scorpio North Node being similar. So that's how I understand why it's like both of them resonate. And so I'm a huge fan of working with as many of the chapters as you're feeling called to, especially for you guys. And I say that I started to make this point in the Pisces chapter, and I never really made it, and that's haunting me. I'm going to have to tell him next time I talk to him. But I'm going to tell you guys instead, because we're here, and that's what I do, is follow my impulses during the Aries North Node chapter. So, as a water North Node, water energy is feeling. It's your emotions, and I'm hearing my own voice in my head as I found out that I was a Pisces North Node, and that's what I was like here to do for my soul's evolution, is like lean into water and my emotions and whatever. The only thing I'm really grateful for, I'm grateful for a lot, but like in that situation, like I was really grateful that I had already been kind of on an emotional intelligence type journey for several years before I found that in astrology. But if that had been the first thing that I had ever learned about emotions, is like, oh, that's your soul's purpose, it's to like lean into emotions, I was the kind of person that was like, I don't have time for that. You know, like I had no clue the gold mine of valuable intelligence that emotions are. And I give you all of that because one of the greatest prescriptions for a Scorpio North Node is to lean into your psychic intuition, lean into your ability to feel into what is true in the world around you, in the people around you, especially the people that you're closest with. Feel what you feel to be true because it's real. As an Earth South Node, I'm a Virgo South Node, Pisces North Node. As an Earth South Node, you are coming from lifetimes as a provider, as a person who in the physical was able to get stuff done. You never had any issues with your resources or anything like that because you have this practical understanding of, if you do A and then you do B and then you do C and then you do D, you're gonna end up at E. Like, that's just how physical reality works. Is like, if you follow the recipe, you'll get a loaf of bread, you know? Like, there's a process, and if you do it, then you'll get where you want to go. Like, creating in the physical could not be simpler, especially to Earth South nodes. And the trick with this is that in past lifetimes, that Taurus South Node was the owner, was the landowner or the business owner, was the person in charge, was the person who had access to the bank account. They put the money in and they okayed the spending. Like, Taurus South Nodes, like, you are very familiar with how to be in charge of the resources, the physical resources. And in this lifetime, as a Taurus South Node, that shadow is kind of like still hanging on to that responsibility. And as long as you're hanging, I think this is true for all of the North Node combinations, but it's coming through in this example super clearly. And it is like, this is a little bit how you can tell where you're at on your journey, because if you are attracting a spouse or a partner or somebody who basically like cannot create in the physical, like just cannot support their own physical resource needs to save their life, like they're just constantly struggling. Like, if these are the kinds of people that you're attracting, and I very much resonate with having attracted some of these people, I personally don't struggle to attract wealth for myself, but I do tend to attract people who are broke. And like, then I'm like, oh, well, I should help you. Or, oh, yeah, I have it. I have extra. Here you go. You can have it. But like, in this Scorpio North Node context, that will backfire 100% of the time, because number one, you're not supposed to be in that position of being the provider. That's not, or not in that sense, that traditional historical sense of like being the provider of money. You are here to be a different kind of provider, where, let's say it is your spouse, could also be your business partner or your close friends, or maybe you have a coaching practice or somewhere where you get to intimately connect. Intimately meaning vulnerably and authentically, and in a real space where there's safety to share full expressions of whatever the human is going through, whatever the human in front of you is going through. Anywhere where you're getting that intimate connection, that is a space for working in this Scorpio North Node space of being a provider of emotional resources, of emotional support and emotional encouragement. And it's basically like, if it was your spouse, you know, partnering with someone who is capable of manifesting in the earth realm. They have that, and what they really need is emotional support. They don't need financial support. And I think for me personally, what I'm learning about this as I am beginning to manifest more and more financially secure people who do not need me for that at all. They don't have any grasping or any like reaching to anybody else to provide for them. Like, I'm just attracting more stable people as I go along. As I do that, I can see that it's like mirroring, it's like keeping pace, exactly like correlated with my ability to be confident in providing emotional support. Like, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there who they'll just like throw money at the problem kind of thing. Like, all I know how to do is give you money. That's like the only way that I know how to provide, is to make money, buy you food, buy you clothes, like put a roof over your head. Like, isn't that enough? No, not in this lifetime. Like, not in this experience, this incarnation of setting your sights into a Scorpio North Node territory. This is a lifetime of receiving. This is a lifetime of being supported. This is a lifetime of somebody else's money paying for your food and your shelter and your insurance and your car and your all your things. Like, you're here to be dependent on somebody else's resources. And especially that Taurus shadow is like hell I am. I would never, like, you know, that's the part where I can definitely resonate with, like, no, I feel some really strong resistance to that idea of ever having my security be dependent on another person. And that's where there is an opportunity to wrap a little bit of compassion around that Taurus space where, you know, you think about, like, if you were, no, probably not if, like, you had something along these lines, but, like, you know, I think about 100 years ago or whatever, back when it was very common to have 5, 10, 15 kids. I mean, my grandparents basically all came from huge families of like 7+ kids. And at that point, you are not just the provider of one other person. You're the provider of, like, there's, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bellies that are either going to go to bed full or hungry, depending on what you were able to provide. And the pressure of that, at that point, getting to feel your feelings was a luxury you literally could not afford. There was no time to do anything other than A plus B plus C plus D plus E plus F equals harvest equals A plus B plus C plus equals harvest. Like, it was just provide, because so many people were eating off your table. So many people were counting on you to provide for them. And so that is like a survival mode kind of place to be. And coming into this lifetime, quite possibly you relate to having kind of like an overzealous drive towards security and needing to know that, like, not just that you have enough for today or that your loved ones have enough for today, but that, like, for all the days to come, and it's right here, right now, and you have to make it happen. Like that kind of dedication to security where you're now needing a guarantee for the rest of your life, which, like, that just doesn't even exist. This is the 3D where it all ends sometime, you know, like that's just natural. Which I'm sure you guys can really appreciate as that Taurus energy. Like, you understand what's natural. And so the evolution, though, that you're here to make with that Scorpio North Node is about building up trust in yourself, really, first and foremost, and in others, especially, and receiving from others, allowing, like I heard a quote the other day, if you open your heart just a pinhole, then God, source, the infinite universe, like, will do the rest. And so if you let yourself just start receiving, and chances are there was a point at some point where somebody came along and was able to give to you in a way where you were able to receive, whether that was like an inheritance or a spouse who had decent money or a decent job or something like that, where you were able to take a hiatus from work, or like, those are the kinds of manifestations that let you know you are really down the road on the North Node side of things, where it's a beautiful life, I think. And again, I'm probably biased as a water North Node myself, but, like, as an Earth South Node, you have worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked in past lifetimes so that other people could live and thrive and grow. I mean, they were nourished and nurtured off of the back-breaking hard work that you did. And basically, it's your turn to be nourished and nurtured on the back of someone else's work. So this is a support lifetime for you. This is you don't have to be the responsible one. You get to be the receiver. And as far as what do you do then, you practice your emotional support. You practice your emotional intelligence. You practice expanding your own emotional range within yourself and how intimate you can be with yourself the more intimate you can be with your own emotions and your own pain, your own joy, the more you can look and feel deeply into those huge range of anything that the human can experience, the better you are able to recognize, to be aware, which is the first step of supporting someone, like to recognize what it is that they're feeling by being able to empathize, by knowing your own feelings, and then using your intuition, your practicality, your deep knowing of how to get stuff done in the physical, to guide that person. And really in the top frequency, there's the capacity for psychically feeling into what motivates the other person. Like Taurus is associated with values. So like what is deeply valuable to the other person, not to you. And you're not supposed to give up what's deeply valuable to you. I mean, your security will most likely always be deeply valuable to you. But in this lifetime, you're essentially here to trade. Like, I'll let you take care of my physical needs, and I will take care of your emotional needs, and we will make this trade. And I will show up and I will do my support, and you will show up and you will do your support. And if ever that partnership is violated, someone's not doing their part, then that's the time for renegotiation or possibly separation. You know, like not everything has to last forever. That's not the measure of success in my book. But both people have to get what is most valuable to them. So basically you're an expert on what's most valuable to you, and as long as you kind of keep one eye on that, your needs are always going to be met. Always. Like that's just one of your superpowers. And the trick in this lifetime is to take that superpower of getting your own needs met and having everything in the physical that you desire, that you need to feel comfortable and safe in your life, taking that perspective and pointing it at another person and using your intuition to feel into what matters to them, because my needs are always going to get met. Like when we have resources, my needs are going to get met because I got that covered. I can't help myself. But there's only one way to make sure your needs get met, and that's that we both know exactly what they are. And oftentimes the part that you guys kind of take for granted is that your needs are so often met, and the first step of meeting one's needs is to know what they are. And I wonder how that lands in your consciousness, because I would imagine with the Taurus South Node, you're like, how does somebody not know what their needs are? Like you just get hungry and then you eat something. Like what? I don't get it. Exactly. Like welcome to the bulk majority of the rest of the population. Like it's not that they know what their needs are and they're refusing to meet them. So often it's that they don't even know what their needs are. And so use your intuition to feel into what are their needs and to help ask questions and to help excavate, point out little things and observations and, oh, that must have been so challenging for you. Tell me about that, like intuiting their need to express, or you must be hungry. Here, try something to eat. And like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know how hungry I was. Like you have a sense for like, what are their needs? What do they need? And the more you're able to kind of like guide them into helping them get more and more of their needs fulfilled by basically like helping them to know what their needs even are, it's like precious. At that point, they are resourced, right? Because their needs are fully met. So now they go out into the world as a fully resourced human being, and they're powerful in that capacity. And now they're bringing home a take home that is even bigger and better. And everybody's divvying it up, including you, because you contributed. And this person knows that you contributed. That was something that, Jan Spiller says in Astrology for the Soul, is that actually it's best for the Scorpio North Node to, like in those kinds of negotiations, as far as like, okay, so, you give me whatever you think is fair, to let the other person, the supported one that you're helping, let them tell you what your cut should be, because chances are they are going to value you higher than you're valuing yourself. And I think the reason for this is again switching into my speculation, I guess, contemplation, is Like what is so easy and natural for you is wildly profound for somebody else who has no access to knowing what their needs are. Having you around is a magically eye-opening experience, and having somebody there to ground me into me is a service that is even hard to put a dollar figure on. So yeah, to allow yourself to receive nurturing, to receive physical support, to receive an allowance even. I mean, inheritance is kind of like a one-time allowance, but like just kind of in general, I would be very curious to know how that concept lands in your Taurus South Node consciousness of like somebody just like dropping fat checks in your account every week. Like, I mean, to me, that sounds like really freaking awesome, but I've done a lot of work with my Water North Node of like being open to receive way more than I personally could ever accomplish with my own two hands. And I receive way more by, instead of using my physical resources, I use my emotional resources, my intuition, my ability to divine, my ability to channel, my ability to feel and love. Like those are the primary skills that I came here to use in this lifetime as a Water North Node. And I wonder like how much of that resonates for you as a Scorpio North Node. So I do want to talk a little bit now about like the Aries North Node chapter and how it could like potentially help you to move on down the road in your Scorpio North Node evolution. And the first thing that jumps out at me, and like I said, we'll be able to get further into this in all the future installments, but the very first piece is that they have the same ancient ruler. So Aries is ruled by Mars and Scorpio is anciently ruled by Mars. And so I think that is a huge piece to chew on initially, is that I think your personal natal Mars has a lot to do with this next 18 months, or July of 23 to January of 25. Your natal Mars, so it doesn't have to be Aries or Scorpio, it could be Gemini or Pisces or whatever, doesn't matter. But your natal Mars, you leaning into that natal Mars energy is critically important as far as stepping into your Scorpio energy, trusting your instincts, not overthinking, like that Scorpio North Node ruled by Mars and then the Taurus South Node ruled by Venus. Venus is like harmonizing and finding balance and equilibrium points and like satiating the needs so that you can be comfortable. Mars is charging and running after whatever's lighting them on fire, or whatever fire they're trying to put out, or whatever. Like it's a very action oriented sign, a very instinctual sign. And so I feel like there's something to do with your instincts, and that your unique Mars sign has a lot to tell you about the way your unique instincts are talking to you. So the last thing that we're going to do in this first installment is look at a few cards that I pulled for you. I have their names down in the description box, so feel free to check those out. The first are the Archetype cards, and as I was sitting down with the cards and, you know, like trying to bring some information through, the question that I opened up within myself and asked was, show me one archetype that represents the Taurus South Node, and give me two archetypes that represent the Scorpio North Node. And you guys, like, I was telling the Libra North Node group, like, this is why I believe in divination, because it makes so much sense, like when you really like think about it. So I'm going to share them very simply and let you do your own contemplation. I'm sure everybody's going to get something completely different out of these cards, but so for the Taurus South Node, the archetype that represents that came out as the Martyr. So when we use these, I think it is important to like feel, again, as a Water North Node, like especially feel into your initial reaction to that word, martyr. What does it mean to you? Like connotation, basically, like feel the connotation that you think it has. So before I read like what is the gift of being a martyr, what is the downside of being a martyr, the light attribute and the shadow attribute, before we even get into like what does Carolyn Myss think the martyr is, right? She wrote the card. What do you think it is? How does it feel to you? And there's something in that as far as like for your contemplation. But also, so the martyr and what she has to say about it. The light attribute is learning the transcendent nature of service to oneself or a cause. And as a Virgo South Node, like I can tell you being of service is one of the most satisfying things that I have personally ever encountered. And I think it's interesting that like a fellow Earth South Node, like a Taurus South Node, is getting this concept of like being of service feels good. You know, like being a provider feels good in many, many ways. And so the downside though is addiction to self-pity. And you know, again, I would say feel into your connotation around self-pity because in the culture, it's generally not a great thing. But I would also say, like, think back to like the pressure of everybody's counting on me. Like they only eat if I bring home the bacon, kind of a mindset where, you know, being addicted to being needed. That's where your self-worth is coming from. Like, I provide for 12 people. Oh yeah, I provide for 20 people. I provide for 100 people. Like, and that's where your self-worth and your sense of value is coming from. And in this lifetime, I feel like, you know, you're here, especially with Scorpio energy, is like a deep union between two souls, like deep intimacy, a deep merging of energies where it's not about you, it's not about them, it's about what's best for both of you and the unit that you create together. And so allowing yourself to not need to be needed for financial support. And again, it goes back to like, well, I don't know how to offer any other kind of support. So I kind of like, this is really my only trick to play. But as you get more confident in your emotional support, as you trust your instincts, as you trust your intuition, which I think is what the Aries North Node is going to help us with in this particular installment, as you lean towards your Scorpio North Node, your instincts are everything. So learning to trust those, leaning into your personal Mars energy, I think all of that is definitely leading you more into the Scorpio North Node. And the two archetypes that came out for that, so interesting. So the first one is King. And again, I would ask you to feel into your own connotation and what does that feel like to you? But again, I think it's even got like a very watery color to it, like that dark blue, where the water North Node family, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio North Nodes, are here in this lifetime to receive. You know, you're here to sit on your throne and let the people bring you platters of treats and entertainment and gifts. And, you know, you're just here to be. And so I think that's really beautiful. And the light attributes are enlightened, benevolent leadership, benefiting those in your charge. And that's where I think the potential for water North Nodes is that, you know, yeah, maybe in past lifetimes you were able to provide for 15 people, maybe 100 people, maybe 100,000 people. With water though, it's like so much more powerful, I want to say, like there's such a greater potential to help that many more people as you move into a space. Like I'm thinking of like a conductor, like, you know, earth energy, like imagine a lightning strike that like strikes a particular place on the earth and maybe it shatters a tree or it digs a big hole in the ground or something. And like at that point, maybe if you're like right there with that, like the energy coming down into that one localized place, it's able to be sent out a little ways, like in that immediate vicinity. Imagine though you have like a live wire electrical current get dropped on like one end of a pond. Unfortunately, you would electrocute like every single thing in that pond, and that's a really horrible image. But imagine benevolent leadership. Imagine that was a live wire of love that you have flowing through you. and you put it through your emotions into other people's emotions, and the impact of it is gigantic. So much further those waves can reach, and the benefit and the support that you're providing, and the empowerment and the stability that you're providing to those that you care about. It's like, as a Water North Node, you have the potential to care about a lot of people. And that's an option, you know, to step into that king energy and to give of yourself to those that are in return, like, bringing you everything that you need to live a luxurious lifestyle. The shadow attributes is excessive feelings of entitlement and rulership without restraint. And that to me was very interesting with the Taurus South Node connotation around like extreme control, like extreme impulse towards needing to guarantee security. And so at that point, like if that's the like survival mindset that you're still in, then I can definitely see where the power that you have is going to be in controlling everything so that it's exactly the way that you want it to be, versus allowing the flow to happen through you and giving of yourself what you have and allowing the universe to bring it right back to you. The other archetype I think is so interesting. Again, I would love to hear how this lands for you and what you think of it in your energy, but it is the Judge. For the Scorpio North Node, second archetype is the Judge. The light attributes are balancing justice and compassion, managing the fair distribution of power. And I thought that was really interesting because the Taurus Scorpio axis is the power axis, and managing the fair distribution of power. The shadow attributes offering only destructive criticism, misusing business, legal, or criminal authority. So misusing your authority. So again, like I think, you know, hopefully there is a shedding of the need to control your own security so directly, and a more opening up to the benevolence of the all in exchange for the valuable energy that you offer to those close up to you. The last two cards that I have here are a couple of tarot cards that I asked for like guidance for this Aries North Node chapter of time, and how the Scorpio North Node might really make the best use out of this time. And the first one is the King of Swords. So I thought that went really nicely with our king archetype. So it's like a nod to, yeah, like get in your king energy. And I think that's really specific because if you're familiar with the archetypes or the tarot, you know there's plenty of queens that could be coming out right now, and they're not. They're not. You're getting the king archetype, you're getting the King of Swords. So that's where, again, I go back to your Mars energy, which Mars represents your divine masculine, to see what your king energy might look like for you personally. And the King of Swords is like a clarity of being able to see what is. And that to me sounds a lot like the highest frequency of the Taurus South Node, is like a very practical eye for what's real. And then the last card is Judgment. So this one I thought was really interesting. And, you know, again, judgment is such a heavily connotated word, so I would love to hear how it feels in your system. But for the most part, it's a very negatively shrouded connotation, as far as there's a lot of like fear of being judged. And I wonder if that resonates. The key to receiving is that you kind of have to open yourself up to judgment. And that's what receiving is like some people are going to love you so much that they have to give you money. Like I am just beginning to receive tips. Like there's a couple people who just keep sending me tips like every few days, like here's $10. And I'm like, what? Like why? They're coming off of these YouTube videos and they're clicking the link and they're giving me $5, $10. And I'm like, wow. Judgment. You know, they passed judgment on me and decided that I was worth giving their dollars to. That like what I offered them just by talking to them on a video a video that was for everyone just by talking to them. They received enough value to want to offer me some money in return. I also am just noticing how much these two are the same, judge and judgment. So we have judge and judgment and king and king. So, I think it's pretty clear, as they say. So yeah, let yourself be judged, I think, is one of the key takeaways for the Scorpio North Node. And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised by how favorable those judgments are. So as we said, you can take in whatever chapters you like. That is all for this first installment of the Scorpio North Node. It has literally been my pleasure to be here with you. I thank you so much for investing your time in yourself and in those that matter to you. Your instincts are leading you to the people who will take your support and will do magical things with it, including shower you with all, I'll say, more riches and abundance than you could have even imagined for yourself. So until next time, my dear friends, I'm going to leave you with this right here. Step into your king, step into your clarity, step into your instincts, and so will I. Hello, Sagittarius North Node, and welcome to the beginning of what I expect will be somewhat of an extended conversation over the course of the Aries North Node transit that's happening from July of 2023 through January of 2025. And this portion of this video is specifically for anyone who has a Sagittarius North Node in their natal chart, and also anyone who's wanting to develop their Sagittarius energy and possibly figure out how to give your Gemini energy a break. And that is where I drink down the Sagittarius North Node chapter like a muscle relaxer. Like, it is so beautiful the way every single one of these chapters is like medicine to our energy in its own way. So if you're one of the ones that's tracking with all the different chapters, I've been dropping in little nuggets of like how this energy is fixed in my own personal chart. I have what's kind of a confusing hunk of energy, if you ask me personally, where I have these Gemini planets and I have these Sagittarius planets, and especially these that are opposite my Sagittarius planets, where I have Saturn and Uranus in Sagittarius, exactly opposite my Sun and Chiron. And in that mixture of energies, it's like that's another axis right there where I very much resonate with both the North Node in Gemini chapter and the North Node in the Sagittarius chapter. I'm like, I'm definitely all of this. So fun. And this particular one, I think the reason that this feels so good to me, this medicine of the Sagittarius North Node, is because my Chiron in Gemini. Oh, bless my sweet Chiron in Gemini, where I call it the mental tornado, where you can get yourself just like wound up and that don't feel good. So that Gemini South Node, and I'm going to talk to Gemini South Node and Sagittarius North Node, but again, if you're here to explore that energy, like, welcome and kudos on your journey. With the Sagittarius North Node, there is a really simple way of looking at it that I think fits really well here with the Sagittarius North Node principle of simplification in general. That Gemini South Node is ruled by Mercury. It's also an air sign. Gemini is an air sign. And then the Sagittarius is a fire sign. And air and fire energy, they're complementary. They're always exactly opposite each other. They very much go hand in hand, kind of like weaving back and forth into each other. But the Gemini Mercury air South Node is wanting a mental process that understands the logic of what is going on, cause and effect, like you have all of it figured out kind of like in your mental process. And to do that, again, the mental tornado, it takes so many details to like make it all make sense in your brain. And that's where that Gemini South Node is at huge risk for like any kind of like analysis paralysis, or just never really feeling like you have enough information or enough mental security, enough confidence in your mind to be able to put yourself out there in the world and like do the thing that you want to do. There can be so much self-doubt in, I'm not ready yet. I don't know enough yet, right? Like, other people know stuff that I don't know. And the secret with the Sagittarius North Node is that, like, basically you're here to study. Like, you've been all of these other lifetimes, that Gemini South Node in air. Air is an observation energy. It's like it fills the gaps between people, but it's not people, right? Like, they also say that Gemini South Node is kind of a mind reader. Like, you just know what people are thinking, and you can read like the words in between what they're saying. Like, you can read between the lines. You can hear the words that are not being said. Like, I know, actually, I live with a Sagittarius North Node, and she is somewhat clairaudient, I think is what it's called, when you can actually, like, in an auditory way where you think it's happening with your real ears, she can hear people say things that they are not saying, that they are thinking in their minds. She's had it happen twice, and I'm like, holy shit, like, that's incredible. Where, like, that Gemini South Node, because of like lifetime after lifetime of being so tuned in to what other people are thinking. You've been studying what other people are thinking forever. You've been seeing the patterns between this person says this and this person says this. Like, how does that work? And you've just been studying communication and ideas and information. And you have like that Gemini air expansiveness, is that, like, there is no limit. There's no like Saturn rules structure. Air energy, like, there is no limit. There's no outer bounds to what it can become. So that's where that feeling of never enough information comes from. So that's one piece to really recognize within yourself, as far as like when the mental tornado starts spinning. Do we really need to go down this road, or can we simplify? Because the Sagittarius North Node end, the Fire North Node end, which, by the way, is being extremely supported this chapter of the Aries North Node, a fellow fire sign, the first fire sign, the North Node transiting through this spark of life space in the sky. That is so supportive to really building up that Sagittarius North Node energy, which is so simple. It's just be. Actually, like, maybe you guys really love music. Pretty much every Sagittarius North Node that I've ever met is like obsessed with music and will communicate themselves through music. They'll like send you a song and be like, this. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Be As You Are by Mike Posner. I'll link it in the description for you guys. I asked my Spotify, like an oracle, like, just ask the question, like, what song will help me tune into Sagittarius North Node's energy at this time in the way that's most helpful? And I like shuffled it and played and Be As You Are by Mike Posner. And that's basically it. Like, when you switch out of the air mode that fills the space between all people, right? Like that air energy that's so capable of seeing every single perspective, every single vantage point. You can step into everybody's eyes, and like, in perfect Gemini energy, you can imagine every single person's perspective, and you can see it and you get it. You see where they're coming from. You see the validity and the truth in that person's viewpoint. And the validity and truth in this person's viewpoint, and the validity and truth in this person's viewpoint, and the validity and truth in this person's viewpoint. And now we have a mental tornado that is we've clocked it, and it's right there. And you better start to dissipate some of that by turning your powerful observational skills on yourself. That is very much the Sagittarius North Node way, is that, like, all the lifetimes of studying other people, in this lifetime with the Fire North Node, you're here to study yourself, to pay attention not to somebody else's truth and like, yeah, I can see where they're coming from. Like, you'll always have that ability. You're never going to lose that. You couldn't take that off if you tried. But like, you don't have to pay attention to it and give it your full focus and your full life force energy to understand it. Like, it's so natural. You're going to get that no matter what. What the energy needs to be pointed at is when you hear something, what does your body tell you? What is your truth in that? You know, like, you'll know instantly inside your body, yes, that's for me, no, it's not for me. And one, maybe you feel that, maybe you don't. And two, maybe you listen to it and maybe you don't. Because the Gemini South Node can often second guess and talk itself out of what it knows to be true on the inside, what it can feel to be true on the inside. But then it's like, well, but so and so was really counting on me to go there, and like, well, and this person, they called me flaky that one time, so no, I need to go to prove to that person. I'm like, you can have all of this shit talking to you in your head about why what you know to be true isn't actually true according to them and them and them and them and them. Like, when you introduce the world's viewpoint to it, your truth falls apart. Like, it just dissipates, and then you are the subject of your mental process, your logic, your Gemini South Node. And so then you'll do what you think you should do according to all of these massive amounts of perspectives that you have swirling in your head. And typically in this lifetime with a Sagittarius North Node, it's not going to go well to listen to your logic and forego what you knew to be true in the first place. Like, I would imagine as a Sagittarius North Node, you have plenty of stories that you could tell us about, I knew I shouldn't have done that, and then I did it anyway because he wanted me to, because she wanted me to, because she said I should, because she said I couldn't, you know, like, whatever it is, like, somebody else's perspective dominated what you knew in your bones you didn't want, and you did it anyway. And then at the end of it, you're like, see, I shouldn't have done that. And that's, unfortunately, fortunately, that's typically how the Sagittarius North Node learns, is like, listen to what your fire, your intuition in the moment, in the right now instant. It could not be more simple. The right now instant of seeing or hearing or feeling or smelling or anything, you experience a piece of information and you instantly know if it is for you or if it is not for you. Instantly. And if you don't second guess that and you just let that be your path where yes, no, yes, no, 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 yes, 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 no, yes, yes, yes. Like, if you let that inner knowing, that simplicity, if you let that be your guide through this life, that is where, you know, the Sagittarius North Node is ruled by Jupiter. And with that, Jupiter is related to spirituality, and they say that, like, there's just this connection with your spiritual support where you personally knowing your inner truth and you personally stepping into your ego and your identity, that fire part of ourselves that, like, was the force of source energy itself, God itself pushing its way into the physical, that, like, freaking, I'm seeing a spaceship, like, thruster engine, like, launching itself into space, having to break through all the layers of the atmosphere. That fire energy that put us all on this planet, that is what you all are here to, like, really step into, to let it be that simple, that you are an extension of source, and this realm, this 3D realm, has certain laws. It has a fundamental, like, gravity, you know, like, don't jump off of something that you're not prepared to fall off of. Like, that's a law of nature and being on this planet. And with Sagittarius, like, the simplicity comes in with, like, you're here to study not what does everybody think about everything, but, like, what's really true? What's really true about the laws of nature and the laws of being alive on this planet? And often there will be a specific philosophy or teacher or sometimes even religion, maybe. I mean, all of that is kind of under that umbrella of Sagittarius. Even higher education could lead you into this place of like cutting out the noise of what everybody's saying and really getting to the heart, the fire simplicity part of like, is it a yes or no in my body? Getting to the heart of like what's really true. And there's this like understanding with the Gemini South Node. You've spent lifetimes diving into the information, deep dive after deep dive after rabbit hole into the information. And the reason you came with a Sagittarius North Node, in my personal opinion, it feels true for me, is that you figured out through your past lifetimes that there will never be enough information to figure out what's true. I've exhausted the information and it doesn't add up into truth, period. And the realization, the beautiful realization, is that it's actually so much simpler. You don't need research. You don't need an expert. You don't need a guru. You just need to listen inside your body. And that is, I wanted to ask you specifically about, here we are coming off of this most recent chapter of the North Node transiting through Taurus and the South Node transiting through Scorpio. That was a significant evolution of getting in your body. Get in your physical body and feel what's in there. Feel your physical needs, feel your physical comfort or not, feel your physical pleasure or not. Feel what's in your body. And the beautiful thing about that is, and where I wouldn't be surprised if like you guys really had a blossoming these last 18 months from January 2022 through July of 2023, that's where your Sagittarius is communicating with you. That's where your fire energy lives, is inside your body. It fuels up from the base of your stomach. It sends chills down your arms. It puts tingles up the back of your neck. It makes your hair stand on end. It is communicating with you yes and no. It'll give you a feeling of nausea. I've even almost puked. Like, have you ever energetically puked? I mean it. I mean it. You're like, not dry heaving because it's really not even coming from your stomach. It's in your throat. It's like an instantaneous passing of judgment, of disgust against what it is that you're witnessing. And it usually is somebody speaking in their own beliefs, in their own perspective, in their own viewpoint. I'm doing my Gemini thing where I love hearing. I have a whole Gemini stellium, a beautiful Gemini stellium that happens to include my Gemini Chiron. So at some points, enough is enough, because there are places where you can go in the world and start listening to things that will literally make you energetically puke. And that is your body telling you that's not true for you. And that's a beautiful place to maybe insert a note about the difference between personal truth and universal truth, and the gray area that I believe is all there is, because in some ways, I believe we're all an extension of God. And in that way, like, are we not all part of the one? And are we not all living some universal truth? I think there's many, many ways that you can do that. And then also there's like the navigational instructions on how to do that. And I personally believe that we each, every single individual one of us, have our own route that we meant to walk, and some people wanted to go this way and some people wanted to go this way. Some people wanted to take the marriage route. Some people wanted to go this way. Like, on and on and on and on. Like, everybody has their own compass, their own navigational guide that is telling them right turn, left turn, straight, left turn, right, like on and on and on. Like, everybody has that, and it's their fire energy, it's their intuition that is guiding them in the moment. Like, are you shouting in celebration and, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever heard? Or are you energetically puking because because it's so disgusting that anyone would ever live their life according to that truth. The beautiful thing being, we can't live anybody else's life for them. So the best a Sagittarius North Node is ever hoping to achieve is to simply be an embodiment of your own personal truth. So somebody else's viewpoint makes you gag because it's so wrong to you. That just means that you're not supposed to implement that in your life. It doesn't mean anything about they need to be different. You have no idea what's on their map. You have no idea like what they came to experience. And some of us, I would argue, all of us signed up for the suffering. Like that is one of the only guaranteed things that you get in life are pain and suffering. And why would we all come here if that was like the base level? We knew we were going to get that, right? And like the other stuff is possible and there'll be moments of that, but the pain and suffering, it's constant. It's just part of being separate from your God. It's part of being in the illusion of I'm alone in this physical body. And the beautiful thing about Sagittarius energy, connecting to that instantaneous inner knowing that just is like on it, and it knows everything. It literally knows everything. That's why people who are really strong in their Sagittarius energy, they can come off like know-it-alls. That's like part of the shadow. I'm like, that's a person who is tapped in to their inner knowing. And even if they may slip up sometimes and start talking about universal truths, all they're saying to you is what's true for them, and listen to their conviction. Listen to how sure they are. And we can be that sure too. And the trick is to only ever be telling your story, only ever be telling your perspective, your truth, to understand that you're not trying to solve universal truth. You're not trying to digest all the information that ever was to know what's true as far as the world is concerned, because there is no such thing. There's only ever your truth, and your body is telling you that every single instant you're alive. So I want to talk about one more thing, and then I'll spend a little bit of time specifically diving into the Aries North Node chapter. I have noticed through the Sagittarius North Nodes in my life that you all tend to be exceptional listeners. You also are very good, typically, at voicing what it is that, you think. A lot of times you can slip into like saying things that other people want to hear, what you think they want to hear, I should say. But you do have really good communication skills as far as like vocalizing as well. But really the listening is what really gets me, because that is where the understanding happens. That's where the intuition is happening. That's where you are literally hearing the unsaid. You're inside their brain, listening to what they're not even telling you, And that is where like a deep understanding comes into your body. And in an unconscious Gemini South Node space, the process will kick in of trying to analyze and like, what did they mean by that? And what about this? And they said this, but did they mean this? And like, what did like, blah, 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 blah. What are they trying to do here? What's their motive? What do they want from me? What should I say so that they're getting what they want from me, so that we could have like this fun time continue or whatever. I can be accepted. That listening ability is truly what I would call a profound gift to this world. And like, as far as like consciously using it and harnessing the diamond that it is, because it is a gemstone of epic proportions. The fact that you can listen with such depth and clarity, and especially once you are consciously in your body and listening to what your truth, what your inner knowing is telling you as this is all unfolding, right? And basically that trick then is saying like that analytical, mental, observational process that used to be applied towards other people, as you listen to the other person, apply that process to you and your truth, and understanding what is it that is resonating for me in this moment, what is wanting to bubble up through my life force energy, my unique extension of source energy on this planet. I have, every single person has a unique perspective, and I am witnessing this moment for a reason so that I can be a channel of truth from God as far as what my inner knowing is telling me, and I can give that to whoever is standing in front of me, and they can do with it whatever they want. And being willing to offer what it is that you want to say is truly the reason for the listening. And that's where I'm going to say, don't let anybody, I feel like the protective older sister, like, don't let anybody take your listening hostage. And that is possibly something that you might see as a recurring pattern of like people who are just using your listening. Like, they don't want to hear your truth. They don't want to hear your intuitive knowing, your guidance that you might be able to offer in return. They are just sounding off. And if you weren't listening to them, somebody else would be. And this is my definition of, at that point, your listening has been taken hostage. Whether they claimed it and took it hostage, or you weren't paying attention and kind of gave it over, and like all of a sudden I was listening to them for 3 hours and I didn't know how to get out of there, like that sort of thing. Like, do not let your listening be taken hostage. And I think that is like very related to the Libra South Node, where our social niceties can definitely keep us playing nice with other people. I personally practice it in my world as far as when I am listening to someone and my blood is boiling, like, I know I've been taken hostage. I know I'm like in this against my will. My inner knowing like does not want to be here. I don't want to be listening to this. Like, I know what it feels like to be listening to something that's just like, oh my God, give me more. I'm just like pinned, just like nailed down, like just ready to receive and just soaking it all up. I know what that feels like. And then there are moments where I am listening. Okay, perfect example. Bless his sweet soul. The gentleman in the aisle at Home Depot, okay, he worked there, and I needed nails for a nail gun. Somebody had told me like exactly which nails to get. I had a picture of like what kind of nails they had. They just needed more. And they were the ones going to use the nail gun. They were going to like load it. They were going to do everything. I had nothing to do with it except I need this nails and I need to take them to the register. Like, that's my whole part. It was probably like 15 minutes into the lesson on the nails, the different kinds, if you're a good carpenter worth his salt, you'd have these kinds of nails in your box. And like all of this wisdom that he is bestowing on me, and I am just getting more and more and more agitated. And the whole time, the whole Libra South Node thing, it wasn't during the Libra South Node, but during the Libra South Node piece of like, he's not stopping. So I'll have to interrupt. I will have to interrupt him. I'll have to cut him off mid-sentence, mid-word, if I want to say what I need to say, which is, thank you for your time. I need to go. I got things. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. And that's what I did. I interrupted him and I thanked him so much. I mean, he was talking and I just, thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate everything that you've helped me with. These are exactly what I was looking for. And I really appreciate it. And I just walked away waving at him and he just stood there. Like, I didn't even allow him to give me permission to leave. Again, Libra South Node, like paying attention to social rules. Like, I don't hang up. If I hang up before we agree that we're both going to hang up, then that's rude, Like, if I just cut you off and walk away and like don't like end the conversation, like let it find closure and resolution, like there's rudeness in that. Rudeness, quote unquote, like according to society, according to probably very outdated rules of society, like tribal rules. I call it having your attention taken hostage. Nobody asked him for a lesson on the nail gun. Nobody asked him for which kind of nail should I use. I asked him I need this. And he proceeded to take me in a completely different direction that I did not request. I got taken on that ride for like 15 minutes, learned a lot about carpenters and nail guns and all the different kinds, and didn't want any of it. My inner self was just like mad. And finally that's where I was like, either I'm going to like snap at him or I'm going to thank him for his time and I'm going to walk away. And it was right there. Like, I did that because I don't want to snap at him. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. I don't want my fire to burn people if I can help it. But that means to recognize, like, when my body is speaking to me in those smaller, subtler, like, I feel like my chest is like pounding and tightening all at the same time. Like, this is not a good sign. This is not heading in a good direction. I don't want to hear this. I don't need to be here. This man does not want my wisdom. He's looking for someone to listen to him, right? And if it's not me, it'll be somebody else. So the Aries North Node, I think, is going to be most helpful in that regard, as far as really stepping into your divine essence on this planet is not simply to be a mirror for other people. Like, someone to just simply listen while they spout off. And you are here to be a sage. You're here to be a teacher, like a leader of embodied wisdom, as far as like you finding a way, that Sagittarius North Node, like finding a way to listen to your inner knowing and embodying that and finding the life satisfaction from it. And other people taking notice along the way and wanting to hear your wisdom. That is like Sagittarius North Node at its finest, is that other people have questions. Can you teach me how you know how to do this? Like, how did you figure out this? How is it that you knew how to do this? Like, they'll have questions. When you're really embodying your life satisfaction, people will want to know how you did that. And so you're not here to listen to people complain. You're not here to listen to whatever anybody else wants to shove down your throat. Like, you are here to be the example of what's possible when someone is willing to cut out the noise and listen to their intuition. So the last piece that I have for you are the cards that I drew. I have the decks listed down in the description box if you're interested. First, we'll talk about the archetype cards. And as I was asking for these, I asked, I want to see one card that represents the Gemini South Node, and I want to see two cards that represent the Sagittarius North Node. And I think they're very interesting. And I am going to keep it very basic and let you have your own understanding, like feel in your body, right? What it feels like to, to you. I would love to hear down in the comments like what this has moved in you overall, but especially these archetypes. The Gemini South Node archetype came out as the Thief. So right off the bat, how does that feel? There we go. The light attribute, remember, nothing in the earth realm is good or bad. So if your first reaction was all bad, there's some programming in that likely can set you free a little bit. Nothing is all good or all bad, including the Thief. And the light attribute sheds light on the potential wealth within you that can never be stolen. Can never be stolen. Like, your true wealth, your true abundance is out of reach of even the most talented pickpocket. It's not possible to steal it. And I also want to show you again the card, like how he has the heart inside his jacket. Yeah. And then the shadow attribute is stealing money, creative ideas, affection, or other powers you think you lack. That last part is definitely the main thing, is that like the lack mindset of I don't have enough information, I don't have enough contacts, I don't have enough connections, I don't have enough, on and on and on, of I personally don't have enough. And when you turn within yourself, you realize you already have it all. So there's again a programming in there somewhere that will set you free as you unravel it. The Sagittarius North Node archetypes, the two that came out, the first one is the goddess. The light attribute is the feminine expressed through wisdom, nature, life force, and sensuality. And I'm going to link you guys a podcast episode down below where they talk about our purpose here on Earth is to be a radical receiver. And that just came through in response to the goddess archetype. I think it's also interesting where Sagittarius relates to spirituality and such. And so to have the goddess pull in here feels very fitting to me as well. The shadow attribute of the goddess is exploitation of the female nature and form. The other card for the Sagittarius North Node is the engineer. And the light attributes, ability to give creative energy a practical expression, talent for designing resolutions to common dilemmas. And like look at in the area here. I mean, I feel like that's probably what the inside of your brain looks like, where it's just like constantly like sketching and connecting and yeah, just all the things in there. Shadow attribute, reliance on mechanistic solutions without regard for emotional consequences. And again, I thought that was really interesting where we were talking about the Sagittarius North Node is here to connect to like, what does it feel like for you? We're not here to be ruled by logic. We're not trying to say that, you know, here's the proof, here's the evidence for why this is the right thing. The evidence is a gut feeling that tells you in your soul that this is the right thing. So if you're lacking that, or worse yet, if you're having doubts, if you're having hesitation or resistance towards something, chances are you are creating something that is, you know, kind of misguided almost as far as being based on logic instead of what does it feel like to your humanity. You also got 2 tarot cards, and for these I was asking what is some guidance for the Aries North Node 18-month chapter that could really benefit the Sagittarius North Node group. And the first card is the 3 of Pentacles. And what I took from this card is really like with any of the fire north nodes, the key is that you're here to participate. You're here to get involved and you're here to have a point of view and identity. And the thing about the 3 of Pentacles that I always think about is like the whole point is teamwork. It's like when you have 3 different people with 3 different skill sets, 3 different perspectives, you're able to really come to something that, you know, may represent the highest good of the all. Like at that point, you have kind of, you're able to triangulate truth. Like, here's my truth, and here's your truth, and here's this truth. And like, okay, now we can really kind of see something. And the downside, the shadow of the Gemini South Node is that, you know, if you're trying to be like the other people around you, or if you're trying to figure out what they want you to say so you can say the right thing so that they can accept you, you're not properly bringing to the table your angle of truth. And that is really a gift to the collective for you to step into the embodiment of your truth. And that may not look like anybody else's on the planet, probably, if you're doing it correctly. It's gonna be pretty unique, but especially when you bring that to a team and you stand firmly in what you can see and what your inner knowing is telling you, I guarantee it will be adding value along with the embodied perspectives of the other people on your team. You know, everybody's perspective is going to be able to add value. And the last card for guidance was the 5 of Cups. And with the 5 of Cups, it's kind of like a fear of being disappointed. Like, and it kind of reminds me back to like feeling like I don't have enough to move forward yet. Like I think of a different Sagittarius North Node that I met that was really wanting to start like a tarot channel or something, and like, or even just offer tarot readings. And they were doing this course where it was like a deep dive of hours per card so that you could learn like everything that there was to learn. And she's like, so I'm doing that course, but I'm only like 5% of the way through it. And so, I mean, I have a long way to go before I can get started. And it's like, yes, a certain level of information, especially on something like a technical system like the tarot. I mean, it's not super technical, but there's definitely like archetypes behind each card. But like that is one of the shadows that like can really hold you guys back, is believing that you're going to come up empty if you dive right in. And if anything, more information is going to hold you back. It's going to weigh you down. It's going to make it even harder to really tune in to what your inner knowing is telling you. And if anything, I thought it was really funny in the Jan Spiller Astrology for the Soul book. She says that Sagittarius North Nodes North Nodes are actually like have the potential to be some of the best divinators, some of the best tarot readers, and because they're able to really trust, like when you see the visual image, when you see like the number, when you see all of it, you have this instant impression and this instant inner knowing. And if you can trust yourself enough to step into that, that actually you will have a very fluid reading that will be unlike anything that any information or textbook could ever teach you, any other teacher could ever teach you. I'll leave you with this, and maybe this is like part of that Aries North Node guidance as far as stepping into your unique individuality is very much what the Aries North Node is asking for from us all. And for you guys, keep this in mind as you go forward, that there is not a teacher alive. There is not a physical teacher on this planet who has your answers. That there are many, 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 many teachers that will be helpful to you in terms of reflecting where you are still leaning on logic and trusting other people more than trusting your inner knowing and trusting yourself to follow that inner knowing. There are people out there who will reflect that to you when you've kind of lost your way and you're now valuing other people's opinions more than your own. But the answers to your life satisfactions will be found through honoring your inner fire, stepping into your ego, stepping into your identity, which will mean being different from a lot of people. And at that point, there will be a repeated presentation of, do you want to slip back into saying what other people want to hear so you can be accepted? Or do you want to be the being that you came here to be and speak the truth and wisdom of the soul that you are? Because in this lifetime, I think you will find, especially with Jupiter ruling your North Node, the great expander, the greater benefic, right? That as you trust your inner knowing and as you offer your wisdom to the world, you don't get sucked into what other people want from you or what they think of you. You stand strong in what your inner knowing is saying. You will be rewarded with massive abundance and luck, and the universe bringing you literally everything you've ever envisioned for yourself. But it does require that you trust yourself first. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and for receiving this initial piece of the Sagittarius North Node energy reading for the Aries North Node transit. If you liked the video, please take a second to give it a thumbs up, to leave a comment down below and share a little bit about yourself. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All of these things tell the algorithm that, hey, this is pretty cool and other people might like it. And I really appreciate it when you do that. I really appreciate everything that you're doing to spend time listening to yourself, listening to what your inner knowing is telling you, and any of the practices and pieces that you are doing that are really working for you in that regard. That would be another huge benefit to share, especially in this space. Like, practice sharing your wisdom with other people who are in that same boat of trying to practice sharing their wisdom. So what do you have for us? Teach us something in the comments. I would absolutely love to see that. Until next time, do take such good care of yourselves, and so will I.